Well, I don't know what's going on with the video, but it's not playing. So that's awesome. Ken McElroy, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Breakthrough Walls. It's awesome to have you here, man.
Thanks, Ken. It's been great.
I love your first name. I don't know why. You got a great first name, man. So I don't know what just happened with my video. That never happens, but I want to welcome you. I didn't get a chance to even do the introduction, but Ken, you are, man, a lot of people in the real estate world definitely know who you are. I believe you manage over $1 billion in real estate assets. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
That's unbelievable, man. And in fact, you are a rich dad advisor managing a lot of the stuff with Robert Kiyosaki, his wife, I believe. Is that correct as well?
Yes, Kim and Robert, and there's a bunch of advisors. I'm the real estate advisor. And so we met, Robert and Kim and I met 20 years ago. He started investing with our company, and and we're primarily apartment guys, but we've got office and self-storage, and we're land development, and we have a property management company and a construction company, but mostly we're known as multifamily.
Yeah.
And we've been up over 10,000 units. So we just sold 3,000 in 2019, and so right now we're around 7. But that's what we do full time. We have a team of about 250 people here, and it's a blast.
So there's a lot of people. I told you I'm buddies with Grant Cardone, and I have another friend, Corey Calvin, that does a lot of big real estate investment. And and this is from my perspective, and I know other people. It's like, how do you, and I want to start with kind of where you were born and raised and what got you into all of this, but something for us to address during this conversation is, how can the little guy, the little guy, I mean, dude, when you're managing $1 billion in real estate assets, that makes you one of the big players in the game. But the little guy that doesn't know where to start, is it possible still for somebody that's never owned any rental properties or real estate investments, is it possible for them to get started?
Well, I actually have a belief, Ken, that most of us start with zero. Most of us start with very little knowledge. Most of us start with no money. And, everything I've ever done. So my dad was in construction. My mom was a hairdresser. They never went to college. And money was not, we didn't have a lot of money as a kid. And, and so that's the mindset I grew up in. And so for me, buying that first, I bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo as my very first investment, and it cash flowed, like $130 a month. And, so I was focused on cash flow because obviously I wanted the tenant to cover the payments.
Right.
And that was it. And so, I think, sometimes people look at, guys like me or, others that they might follow, and, the path to get where we are has been riddled with hardship and failure and, loss of everything and, dusting off and, all that stuff. And I mean, that's why I like your show, because, I just believe that it's part of the process. And, as you know, I'm super close with Robert Kiyosaki. In fact, I'm going to go see him here in a couple hours.
Wow.
And I just spent a week with him, and I just got off the phone with him actually right before. He's in lockdown, so he's like super bored. And he's blowing up my phone all the time. But he's got the similar story. A lot of people that I know, we all start from nothing, and everything, every single thing that we've ever done, it's all in their mind. Our own paradigm, whatever it is, is ours. It's our belief system that's formed by so many things, and it's not necessarily reality. It's just your own personal truth, but it's not the truth.
Right.
It's a big difference.
So where, let me ask you, where did you start? Where were you born and raised? What was it like for you coming up? Were you born into money?
Oh God, no. So no. I was born in Everett, Washington, and I was the youngest, and my every single thing that I ever got was, hand me down of some sort. And even my very first suit I got at the Salvation Army for $5. And I'll never forget going in there. And I remember getting my first job wearing that suit. The guys I was working with all had nice stuff, but that was the mindset. My parents were super poor, never went to college, and that was okay. It was absolutely fine for me. I didn't actually know any difference until I got kind of thrust into the business world and started to look around and go, man, I need to upgrade some things. And so, I grew up very happy, great. My parents were married 60 years, and, lots of love in the house and lots of chaos too. My dad was a drinker. He was an alcoholic until I was in my 20s. And then he, done. There's a whole story behind that, but, also, I don't think I grew up very much different than a lot of people. And sometimes I remember saying, I never, not even thinking that I could, be wealthy. I remember that, and it's like, just was whatever. I went back to my high school reunion recently, which was an eye opener. I haven't been back for all of them, but my buddies are blowing me up and going, oh, you got to come. So I flew in. If that's not a wake up call, I don't know what is.
Did you fly in in coach?
If I did, I wouldn't say. So, but I'm just saying that you go in there, and these are people. I'm telling you, and I was not recognized as anything great in high school at all. Period. Yeah. I would say I was somewhere in the middle, maybe average, just kind of blended in.
Yeah.
And and I just look at people's life choices, really, on health, on wealth, on relationships that they have with their kids or their parents or their family or all that stuff. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because, if you really want a life in balance, you got to keep all that stuff in check all the time. Yeah. And keep reprioritizing, because things are always tugging at you.
Yeah. So did you say you didn't go to college?
I went. I actually I got lucky. I had a wrestling scholarship. So I got, I was decent in high school and went to college through athletics. And so and also it prevented me from doing any kind of partying or anything like that. Cause I wanted to keep that. And you can't really party when you're wrestling full time. So that's how I got there. Use it to my best of my abilities.
And so after you got out of college, where did you go from there? Did you immediately get into real estate, or was it something you got into later?
So I got lucky. I was in the business school, and my dad had started a business late in life. And I knew that I kind of wanted to work for myself at some point. And one of my buddies is like, hey, if you can rent this property out downtown Seattle, because there's a lot of vacancies in it, I'll give you a free unit and some cash. And so I moved into this place before I graduated.
Wow.
And, so there I was, because I grew up around construction, I was painting the units and cleaning the toilets and doing all the maintenance and leasing the place. And, I basically filled it up. Property management is pretty common sense, I think.
Yeah.
So I went to work for this group out of Seattle that's very large now, and they're based out of there. They have, I think, right around 200,000 apartments. And, that's where I kind of cut my teeth on real estate. And what I realized very quickly was, we were taking on people's problems. And so what would happen is the guys would come into our offices and they would say, hey, can you manage this? And we would say yes. And then we go manage it. And so I managed 8 units, 12 units, 20 units, 1,000 units. You just didn't matter, all different ages, all different things going on. And so, for the first 8 or 9 years of my life, I was in the property management business. And but really my very first job, Ken, was on site. And so, I was literally collecting that rent and doing all the work. And,
wow.
I'm not kidding. This is exactly what happened to me. So I'm doing this, and I'm busy. I'm working all the time. I run this place, and there's all kinds of stories from there. But the point is, the owner drives up in his Mercedes, and he comes. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Comes, sits down, and he's like, "Thank you. You know, like you took this thing from 60, 70% occupancy to 100% occupancy, and all that. And all of a sudden, he's across the desk from me, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm on the wrong side of this desk. I want to be that guy." And so
Yes.
I just got out of school, wet behind the ears. I have no experience. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And, but I'm like, that's what I want. And so I got my real estate license, and, I started jumping into property management. And that's actually, I'm so blessed to start there because, you learn so much about property and property management and debt and financing and operating expenses and rent and how to grow rent and occupancy, and vacancy trends and all the things that you need to in order to be successful. Because if you take on a property and you can't improve it, you're fired, period. That's the way property management works.
Right.
And that I love it because there's no bias. Like you either improve it or you don't. And so that's for the first 8 or 9 years of my life, that's what I did. And then I made the leap. I'm like, I'm turning around all these buildings. So there's 3 things that happen in property management. You'll get a kick out of this. The first one is that you take on a building and you don't improve it, right? Obviously you get fired. But the second one is if it stays the same, you get fired. Well, the third one, if you improve it, well, they list it and sell it and you get fired. So you're always working yourself out of a job. And so, but I learned so much from so many people. That's when I made the leap to start my own.
Okay. So I just got to back you up just a second. I want to talk about the moment you were sitting at that dude's desk and you had the realization that I'm on the wrong side of this desk. Like, how old were you?
Oh gosh, I don't know, 22, maybe something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're like, and was that because it sounds like that was the moment it flipped for you. Like you're like,
well, it flipped for me just about that one issue. I did not in any way think that I would have a company like I have today. I just was, for me, my life, I'm just like, listen, if I could just hit singles. Every once in a while, it'll be a double or triple, and maybe I'll get a home run. But I just try to hit singles. I never, ever, ever try to get too crazy. And so for me, I just was I start my own company, start a property management company, and that's what I did, and grow that. And then I learned a lot about running a business because I didn't know how to do that, and the partnerships, and hiring people, and hiring the wrong people. Like it's just there's so many.
I've never done that.
Yeah, there's so many mistakes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel like I've had a lifetime of failure, and
that is such an important statement right there. And I know you know that. So because a lot of people may look at a guy like you and go, well, yeah, if you're hanging out with Robert Kiyosaki all the time, it's easy to create $1 billion empire. But like that's not the case like that at all. It literally is failure upon failure upon failure, right?
So here's the thing with people. This is what happens is if you pour yourself into personal development and you pour yourself into trying to be as good as you can, then you attract people like Robert and Kim. That's how that works. So it wasn't some random thing. Robert sought me out. We were already buying property. We were already raising capital. I already had my business, all that stuff. And he became an investor just like hundreds of others. And so, he just seemed, I will tell you, there's a lot other people that are investing with us. They're a lot wealthier than Robert, but that's not the point. Robert and I just became really close. And that's how he said, hey, would you write these books and would you come with me and speak? And again, I'm a personal development guy. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to write a book, but I'll do it. And I don't know how to speak, but I'll do it. And I just started learning and I just started trying things. And I just, because I was always just trying to get as good as I could. on whatever it was. And I was never, when I met Robert, if you guys, like, everybody's like, Rich Dad Poor Dad had just come out.
Yeah.
It was over 20 years ago. It was not what it is today. So now you can say, oh, yeah. But, at the time he was just a guy with a book,
Right.
and it was out not even a year. And it was not an instant success. I don't know if you remember, he self-published. He had it at some car washes in Austin, Texas, and he was a real estate investor, just like hundreds of others that I talked to. And so now he is who he is, but we've been able to grow together. He was not famous when we first met. And it's not even an issue. I just,
right.
But we were attracted because we were both real estate guys, and I believed in cash flow. And he's like, most people believe in capital gains or flipping and selling things. And, there's a bazillion strategies around real estate, but right. I'm always like, hey, if I'm going to spend all this time, buying something and turn it around and making a cash flow, why the heck would I want to sell it and give it to somebody else just to make that extra capital gain? So I was always a cash flow guy, always from the very beginning. And Robert, that's actually how we got attracted, because he's like, you're one of the only guys I knew that was a cash flow guy. Your focus was cash flow. And it's because I had the property management background.
There's Kyle Wilson.
Yeah.
Love that dude. So when, because again, you said something about $117 cash flow or $118 maybe.
My first deal, yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because, okay, a lot goes into buying a single property, right? There's a lot that goes into as an investor. Am I right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's so much, from market selection and financing and property management, and absolutely, there's a lot.
How do you get excited about $118?
Well, okay. So here's the way I looked at stuff. For me, I had spent my life, remember, Ken, taking things and turning them into, something that's worth more.
Right.
Through rent growth or expense control or, whatever it was. But my entire job as a property manager is to grow cash flow for people, period.
Okay.
That is, and if you don't, you get fired. So, it is the way it is. And so that is the property manager's job. If you send checks to people, they're happy with you. If you don't, you get a phone call and they're not happy with you. And that is the truth. And so, when I started investing and I started to look at things, I was looking at the return itself. And so, if I'm putting $20,000 down on something and I'm getting $2,000 back in cash flow, then that's a 10% return. And so, that's how my mind works. I mean, my mind's like, okay, so I could take that 20,000 and stick it in the stock market, of course.
Right.
And, I don't know enough about the stock market. It scares the heck out of me. I don't understand it at all. But what I do know is if I put $20,000 down on something, I can get $2,000 a year in cash flow. I know that that's 10% return on my money. So, not calculating depreciation or loan pay down by my tenant or, the market going up and having equity or anything like that. It's just, very basic. And so I did know that. And so for me, making that decision of managing my own money and having my own financial freedom, in mind, because what I was trying to do, Ken, is, we all have a financial freedom number. Not all of us know exactly what it is, but there is one. And so, if your expenses are running, let's say $3,000 a month, then I knew that if I could just get $3,000 of passive income a month, I'd be financially free. That's it. And so,
wow.
In that particular case, that's like 10 to 12 properties, right?
Yeah.
If I can manage them all well, and that might take me 3, 4, 5 years. I wasn't quite sure, but I obviously did it a lot faster. And after I bought the first one, the second one was easier, and the third one. And it's like anything. You start off, it's like playing the guitar, playing the piano, riding a bike, starting a new job. You know nothing the day you start, and then 1 year later, a little bit, and then 2 years later, it's the same. So, but it's just that's how I saw it.
And so, I'm sorry, but even $3,000 a month, like, dude, you were thinking small
Yeah, I know.
compared to now.
I didn't know. I didn't know. Now that people call it financially free and all that shit.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay. I knew, I just wanted to have passive income.
Yeah.
Okay, for my monthly, and just in case something happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, that I got all these. Then I just got to manage my assets and make sure the cash flow is coming in. And that's honestly right now, people are in big pain right now with what's happening.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly what's happening now, Ken. We got $1.5 million a month coming in on rent. Net, by the way, that's net cash flow.
Oh my gosh.
So, and that's as a result of that exact same thinking. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I had 8 units, 12 units, 20 units, 40 units, 60 units, 100 units. You just, and it was a slow, 20-year overnight success.
Well, so for the person that just now is like, and I told you offline, I said, my wife has said to me like 3,000 times, we really need to learn how to do this, invest in real estate. So, I know you do a lot because when you and I talked the other day, it was like, you're like, my life today is just about helping other people win. And like, you literally said something to that degree. You want to talk a little bit about that, how you're helping people get started in real estate investing and teaching them and all of that?
So here's exactly what was my thought, Ken. You got to go back 20 years ago. Right now you hear about all these syndicators and all these people raising all this money and buying all this stuff. Okay. It wasn't the case back then. It was a big boy club. You had to have an institutional partner, or you had to have, some kind of big equity line behind you. And, some of these deals that are syndicated right now, which basically means you go out and you find high net worth people and put together deals, they were out there, but now it's really mainstream. And so my thought was, with real estate being so great, it's got cash flow, it's got appreciation, it's got depreciation, it's got asset protection. You can refinance out and have tax-free income. You can have tax-free income because of depreciation. There's all these great things. Why aren't more people doing it? It's because Wall Street, basically has commanded that, and everybody kind of turns their money over to somebody else. So, but I was like, well, there's got to be a bunch of high net worth people that want to invest in these kinds of things, and that's where I started. And so what I was trying to do was just create an alternative for people. Right. I'm talking about the business owner that's making a lot of money, and the only thing they know is the stock market, or that's all I was trying to do. I was just trying to say, listen, I'm not trying to compete against the stock market. I'm not trying to tell people how to invest, but what I can control is what I invest in. And so, quickly what happens is as you start to buy properties that are, worth more, then you run out of money and you got to raise money, and so, when you start getting into that game, the deal itself can actually raise some money for you. It's not some big sales pitch at all.
Wow.
So if I show you something, let's say I need $1 million, and I can show you that it generates $100,000 or $200,000 a year, it's going to pique your interest.
Right.
So the real estate deal itself is actually the vehicle that raises the money. It's not some buddy standing on stage and trying to raise all this capital. That happens, and everybody's got their method. But for me, it's finding the best real estate deal I can, and then putting the investors in there. And then over the long haul, the investors are still tentative, and they still, they're like, at the beginning, they don't know you. It's like any relationship, and once you start giving them return, once you start giving them the money back, and once you start showing them about your systems, your management, all those kinds of things, and reporting and the transparency, then all of a sudden they start telling people, and you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so when we put a deal out, it fills up in 30 minutes, and I'm talking about 10 or 15 million bucks. Yeah. So it's just, but a long way from, knocking on all the doors.
Yeah, right.
But it takes, it takes a long period of time to grow that trust, the reputation, and there's tons of mistakes and failures and things along the way. But I'm just saying, and so for me, it was a way to let the normal person look at something different than just dumping their money into some kind of wealth management program and not really understanding where it gets invested.
For these deals to work is it possible for the average person to get in on deals like this?
Oh yeah. It's the same problem though. So like if somebody, I'll tell you what's easy, saying I'm going to put this much away every month into the stock market and meeting with the wealth manager once a year and not really understanding the complexity of the fees, where it's invested, if it's a mutual fund and all the different things it can be in. Right. And it's so complex. That's easy, by the way. That actually takes no wisdom. So what takes wisdom and what takes education is to be able to sit down with somebody like me and ask questions. Right. And I love that because we get a lot of super educated investors, and they're asking all the right questions. What's the market like? Are these rent projections right? Let's get through the expenses. How's this underwriting? How's this? How's that? How's the debt? How's the management? Those are all the right questions to ask. And when you get to that level of detail, then you build a trust and then you invest. What scares me, to be quite honest, are the people that just wire the money in and they never call us. And that happens a lot.
Wow.
And, so I just think that people need to take hold of their own cash. They need to understand it. If they're going to give it to you, Ken, or they're going to give it to me, or they're going to give it to anybody else, if they don't understand where it's going, what the fees are, the structure, how it's going to produce, then they're idiots. That's the truth. I mean, why would you, I just don't understand that mentality. I don't understand, people are like all of a sudden waking up at 50 years old going, oh, I don't, my portfolio hasn't really performed. I'm like, Jesus. Like, you know what I mean? It just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But, why would you work so hard and turn all your money over to somebody, not know how it works?
Right. So you educate your people. You spend the time to educate them on how it works.
Yeah. We have an annual investor summit. Investors fly in. I pay for the whole thing. Excuse me. And that's all we do. Say, these are the things that we're doing. This is what we're doing. And it's all fully transparent. We talk about the deals. We talk about how we manage them. I bring a lot of my team up and they talk about what they're working on. And, and again, it all goes back to that property management roots, where I understand, I took our carpet, I took our flooring expense from $4.5 million down to $2 million, just because I understood it,
Yeah.
It took 6 or 8 months. I had to hire a guy in-house. We had him here. He remeasured all the places. We cut 2 national deals. We rolled it out. And, so that's how you make money in property management, is getting into all the little details, all the minutia. We did the same thing with insurance. We did the same thing with utilities. We did the same thing with marketing. You have to go through each of those things and really dig in.
Wow. So I'm thinking, because I don't have any rental properties, I don't have any investments. I think, okay, if I wanted to start with a duplex which is where I told you my brother-in-law has a bunch. That's where he started, like buying duplexes. And I remember years ago, 35 years ago or more, he would get a call in the middle of the night, literally, hey, the toilet's overflowing. and he's like, and he's getting up with no sleep and going to fix somebody's toilet because he owned the property. What about, is that just paying your dues? Is that how it works in the beginning?
Well, that's just a property management issue, He chooses to run them himself.
Yeah.
So that's
he doesn't anymore, but back then he did.
Yeah. So obviously you're going to get those phone calls.
Yeah.
If you're handling them yourself, and but those are real things. People have plumbing issues. We have fires. We have floods. We have wind issues. We have tenant issues. We have a zillion things. I mean, we have 8,000 tenants. You can imagine. I have my own management company that is in-house, and we only manage our own. So all the investments we have are our own investments. I'm the general partner, my partner Ross and I, and so we handle them all ourselves. But a lot of people choose to do them on themselves. I honestly, Ken, if you're in the business for the long haul and you have the time, I suggest it, because you need to know, because what happens is as things come up, you learn. It's just like, pounding through walls. Like you learn this, you learn that, you learn this, you learn that. And it comes up from the tenants and from the neighbors and, from all the different things that can happen. Yeah. And, you just, if you're going to be in this business, then it's always good. Or if you have a property manager handling it all, you need to really have them download for you. And so you're getting education as well. So either one. So
in other words, you need to know how much carpet costs. You need to know, right? Like you do, like maybe not exactly all the time, but you need to have a pretty general idea.
Oh, let me tell you, it's the funniest thing. So I have a lot of personal real estate, I have second homes and stuff like that. Yeah. And so one of the funniest things that happens is sometimes, like right now I'm working on an irrigation deal on my house up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And, and so I'll get a bid from the contractor, and I'm like, you know what I mean? I already know, like, just because I've been around the business, it's like three times higher than it should be. Right. And they don't know who I am. So they just another homeowner. Well, and so, you know what I mean? So it's just, it happens, it doesn't matter if it's landscaping, paint, roofing, concrete, electrical, it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to find bids all over the map, everywhere you go.
So, but that's what I'm talking about. That helps you. It helps you make sure people aren't screwing you, really. Like, right.
Well, yeah. So that is the point of property management. So if you do by the way, I don't know, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and think that, maybe your wife would be happy if you did buy real estate, and if you did, my suggestion is that, you get a good property manager, because Ken, you can very easily could be taken advantage, because you don't have the perspective, you don't know. Like one time we looked at like our water heaters, I was like, okay, how much are we paying for water heaters? And we were like, even this is our company, there was like $100 range, from Ace Hardware or Home Depot or Joe's Appliance or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, what should we pay for a water heater? Let's get it from one source if we can, and tell them what we're going to pay, and so you go through that enough, it's just knowledge, just like you have on whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, man. That is, I can see the importance. And I think honestly, deep down in, that's what probably has scared me the most about ever going out and investing in real estate is I don't know the difference between, what shingles to put on a roof or what's the right toilet to buy or whatever. Like, I don't know that stuff. So I'd have to trust a management company. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I know you're not a dentist, but you've been to one. So
that is so true. That's so true. Good point. So what is, have you ever been in a position where you were like, I can't pay my bills right now? Were you when you first started? Were you?
Oh yeah. Jeez,
yeah.
Man. I remember I ran out of gas when I was out just after college, and I opened this back when you used to put all your change in the like a smoker's thing,
the ashtray thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like, oh shit. So I start grabbing there. I'm like grabbing coins or whatever I can just to, like go a few miles. So yeah. But then then I started to make money, and then I had a bad partnership and I lost everything again.
Wow.
I've invested in a ton of stuff and lost a ton of money, like stock market. I've been, the gold mines. I've invested in my friends' companies. It's just I didn't ask the right questions, and so I have a lifetime of experience of learning. But I think that's part of the process. Asking the right questions. For me, I always look back and I'm like, okay, what was the lesson here? What did I miss? And I was like, well, I could have done this better, this better, this better, this better, and then I just apply it to the next thing.
Wow. There's some valuable lessons right there. Very, very valuable. What do you think makes you, because I think we're probably about the same age. I mean, I'll be 52 in July. What do you think makes everybody that gets to 52 years old has more than likely had their ass handed to them a few times in lessons, right?
Yeah.
What do you think makes you different in that aspect where somebody else might be 52 years old that has big dreams, but they haven't done $1 billion in real estate deals?
So, all right. So there's a few things. One, I mentioned shortly that my dad drank a lot as a kid, and so I found adult children of alcoholics back in college. And honestly, Ken, I was like devouring the stuff in those books. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is great information, and it's all basically personal development. And that kind of started me on my journey. And then I went to this, EST or Landmark, and I remember I went there. And I'm like, holy crap, like I lie a lot, I'm there going, just a bit, these little white lies and sometimes big ones. But I was like, I need to change me, before things are going to change. And so I just been on this journey personally of personal development and all of those kinds of things. And in fact, last week, as I said to you, during this crisis, Robert texted me and he's like, hey, we're all just on this lockdown, let's fly to Texas and go to the ranch. And so I've been several times and he's been several times, we literally chartered a jet and flew to Texas to go to a ranch to do basically 10 to 12 hours a day of personal development. And, I'm always just trying to smooth my rough edges, and I got plenty of them. And so for me, it's just being completely truthful with who I am, what my beliefs are, and trying to, because the truth is the truth, but my reality or my paradigm might be different than that. And so I'm always trying to, we all develop biases and we all develop belief systems based on things that were told to us or mentors or coaches or, things that we didn't get or things that we did get or breakups or whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
And this gal that I just got done training with, she calls them shocks, they were shocks.
Yeah.
And I had a really bad one 20 some years ago where I was in a bad accident, and I was in the hospital, and, she was called a shock. And so we go back to there and we kind of work on the thing, shock. But those kinds of things change you. They change your life course.
Wow.
And so for me, I try to unclutter those shocks or those things. And honestly, that's all I've ever tried to do. It's never been about trying to make a lot of money.
Dude, first off, you don't know this. You just gave me chills. And the reason is I was raised by an alcoholic, and I actually became one. And now I have 17 and a half years of sobriety and recovery. So ACOA and Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, all of those programs, people that don't go to those ever have no idea what they're missing. I swear. They don't.
Yeah. It's all about truth.
It is, man. It totally. How? honesty, openness, and willingness to look at yourself. And that might be the most powerful answer I've ever had on here, man. That's incredible.
It's the truth.
It is the truth. I love that. So, wow. I don't even know where to go from there, to be honest. I'm like, my mind is like zipping a million miles an hour. So you have a training program that you've put together. I'd like to talk about that because I think that, you know, you've got a tremendous amount of knowledge. And when I first started talking to you about the training program that you've put together, I was expecting you to say it was a lot of money. And quite honestly, I was floored when you told me how much it is, which is insane. Before we tell everybody how unbelievably inexpensive your training program is, do you want to talk a little bit about it and what people could expect to learn?
Well, first of all, let me tell you why I do it. So all the books, all the speaking, everything I ever do, I donate to charity. So that, because I make all my money in real estate, and I always wanted to stay super pure around that. But what happens, Ken, is I get a lot of emails, a lot of, people, especially with all the social media stuff going on, always reaching out. And then also, when I'm hanging out with Robert, there's all these opportunities to educate people. And so, what I decided to do was create a website where I could do videos for people. A lot of them are free. And, in fact, everything I've been releasing on YouTube has been free for the last 2 months because of, this virus and all that kind of stuff and things
right.
that we do as a company. But behind the wall, we add a lot of premium type videos on people that are, interested in, financial freedom and investing, for cash flow and, all those things. And so we've got hundreds of videos behind the wall. And the truth is, Ken, I'm not in the business of selling subscriptions. That's
right.
not my business, but I do have several people working on it. And so I'm just trying to cover my costs. And that's why I made it $200 a year to join, because I'm not trying to make money on the site. It'd be nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to lose money either. But the point is I'm trying to educate. And, there's a cost to put all that stuff together.
Sure.
And so it's $20 a month or $199 a year for anybody who wants it. And, and we have obviously a lot of people doing it. And then we get on a list. I think we got, 30, 40,000 people on, that we send this stuff out to every single week. And it's just information, and then people ask questions, and I do YouTube videos, and I do, different things for them. And, if you go to kenmcelroy.com / Ken Walls, and you'll find
here's the link. And that's something else, man, is by you. And so you set this up first. I mean, $200 a year, like that's insane. That's like so inexpensive. And you said, hey man, if we set up a special link, we can make sure that they save an extra $20 by using this link off the annual subscription, which is just incredible, man. So what are they going to learn in this? Are they going to learn is it a good place for a beginner to start?
Yeah, so that's actually the biggest question we get is how do I start? So yes, we did a bunch of videos on that. I'm working on a ton more stuff, Ken.
Okay.
Especially now, which is oddly enough with this virus hitting and the shutdown, it's been such a great opportunity for me to kind of put real estate on the shelf and actually work on the site more. The point of the site is to teach people financial freedom, period. That's it. That is the reason that, before Robert, all of his Rich Dad advisors, the goal of Rich Dad is to elevate the financial well-being of mankind. That's the goal of Rich Dad. So if you ask anybody at the top level, that's the whole mission. And so I'm just part of that mission. And, if I can teach people, how to read business plans, how, the best questions to ask if they're investing in something, how to start small, how to underwrite, how to budget, property management, legal, all that kind of stuff. Plus there's forms, and I have a blog on there that I do. And, it's just, it's evolving, but it's not my core business, as you know.
Yeah.
But it's something that I'm passionate about, because I want people to be able to have access to good information.
Yeah, man, what you're doing. And I think that it's so important that people miss this part. Every person that I know who's accumulated any kind of wealth, in any way, one of the things that's very common is they're givers. They want to give back. They want to make a big splash in this world before they go. They want, right? And I think that most of them also realize that this isn't forever, right? You know that it's not forever. So what's the legacy? What can I do to help the biggest amount of people?
Yeah. And, for me, I believe that's the reason I ran into the Rich Dad and Robert and Kim and the advisors. And to me, it's a great way I used to be a check writer like a lot of people, and, you'd feel good about that, Yeah. Now we have our own foundation. Last year we gave 100,000 to autism and 100,000 to cystic fibrosis, each couple 100,000. And we have a big foundation with our employees where I think we donated to something like 50 different charities. And so, it all rolls up to that. And that's kind of the why. People talk a lot about the why, and it's, and for me, also I'm modeled, my behavior is, being modeled by my kids and other people. And that's important to me. So, I think it's just always important to do what you can, if you can.
Man, I love it. Your energy is, you're so, when Mark Victor Hansen introduced us, well, he gave me your cell phone number. He's like, just call him. I'm like, I'm going to just call a guy that's managing $1 billion in real estate. Okay. And so I did. And I left you a message. You called me back. We had a 20-minute conversation. And I was like, I remember hanging up the phone thinking, that is like the least pretentious guy I've ever talked to. I think like it's just not there. You're humble. I love what you're doing. We are definitely getting your course. We're definitely getting signed up. My wife and I'm very, very grateful for you coming on here and spending the time. And one last question. I like to ask everybody this question. And that is, for the person right now that is, and look, I had a car repossessed in front of my employees once. that was a cool day, right? So for the person that maybe their car just got repoed, or they can't pay their electric bill, or they just can't figure out what to do, but they have hope, they have dreams. What do you say to that person, especially in a time right now? There's a lot of people that don't have any clue how to make money without going and clocking in somewhere. What do you say to them?
Yeah, what a great question. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, let me go back to how I had to change. It's all mindset. And I know that's been thrown around, and, it's not foo-foo stuff. This is,
right.
And so what I went back, and one of the things I studied years ago, as we study books at our company too, and we bring about 100 plus employees in, and we study books. And one of them was, The Ego is the Enemy. And so, what I learned from that book was this, ego is self, it's vertical growth. And so you have ups and you have downs with ego. If you can move yourself to humility, then that's more of a horizontal growth, and it focuses on others, and it focuses on things like empathy. And so the minute, now I know this is, I'm just telling you, this is about my mindset. So when something happens to me, and things happen to me, and they will happen to me, I've been through a ton of stuff, personally, professionally. What I try to do is I try to move my thoughts into things. So I take it, I detach, and I move it out of me. Because what happens is a lot of people get obsessive, and they start, doing me. And honestly, that's ego. And once you can detach from that and move that thought into a thing, then it's not in you. It's something you're observing and you're looking at. It actually helps a lot. People call it detachment, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's the first thing, is you got to get out of this continual record of, and I'm telling you, it goes really deep, man. I mean, I remember as a kid being this big, and my mom, we can't afford that. We can't afford that. And it was true, and those are things that I had to change and break out of. And, and it's all mindset. I'm telling you, I mean, when I went back to my high school reunion, it showed me like who am I? Honestly, who am I? The only difference between me and all the people that I went to high school with, and I'm not saying I made any better. I'm just saying I made different choices. That's all. Some of them chose to drink themselves to death. Some of them chose to eat themselves to death. Some of them chose to be on welfare the rest of their lives. But listen, it was a poor area, poor high school. My parents didn't go to college. It was all the way I thought from the very beginning. And I would say that if people can dig deep and start to look at the truth instead of what they believe is the truth, I'm telling you, it is mind-blowing, because you can start to see the opportunities. I had a meeting right before this. We had our annual leadership meeting all on Zoom, and I own a collections company, and I'm like, listen, by August 1st, after the evictions and things ban and all the stuff, I want to do a nationwide expansion. You know what I mean? And it's,
wow.
You know what I mean? Like it's just, who cares? Like, it may or may not work. But the point is that, it's what you see, right? It's already doing really well. But, everything, every single thing, every deal I've made, every decision I made, it's all in your mind. It's something that you can see. And the only way you can see it is if you change your mindset and you're open and you don't have a fixed position.
Wow. Do you do any one-on-one coaching?
No, you know what? With my two kids, I got my hands full. I wish I could, and I don't have the time, especially being on the Rich Dad platform. I get asked all the time.
I'm sure.
But
I had to ask.
What's that?
I said I had to ask. I know somebody's going to ask me, hey, does that dude do one-on-one? So, but again, I think that you're providing for $200 a year to be able to get your training platform that's insane. Yeah. That's crazy. That's
affordable.
What's that?
I wanted it to be affordable.
That's affordable. And if you can't afford the full 200 up front, do you have a monthly?
Yeah, it's $20 a month, $19.99. Yep.
Dude, that's insane, man. Anybody that doesn't get that, like, seriously, you need to go get it right now. And because this is, I know you're going to say yes to this. The people that you're hanging out with, the people that you're learning from, the information that you're absorbing, that has an impact in your life, right?
Oh gosh, I tell you, like, I used to call them energy suckers, maybe at that one point I was one of those people. I don't know, but it becomes so apparent after a while, and there's two things. I realized early on that I am not here to fix people.
Right.
And I think a lot of people do that, right? They talk to somebody forever, and their behavior never changes, and they have the same conversation a week later, and then a week later, and a week later, and they're frustrated, and everyone's frustrated. Waste of time. Yeah. I have to work on myself. And then what happens is I started working on myself. then, I personally socially distanced from the people that were negative,
before coronavirus.
Yeah. Like, I was like, listen, not judging you. I'm not challenging you. You can think what you want, be who you want.
Right.
Sure, that's fine. But for me, I want to be around people that are supportive. They think they're progressive. I mean, we all like. I just think of think of the Chicago Bulls. Like all the average players on that team, how they gravitated, or same with the Lakers. How they everyone gravitates to the, to the person that's, and I'm telling you, it's the same thing in life, in my opinion. When I hang out with Robert, he's a ball buster, man. I tell you, he's a big personal development guy. All he does is study books. We exchange books, text. I probably got 2 YouTube video links from him just today, 3 or 4 emails. We're always talking, and, we're always challenging each other's thoughts. Yeah. And Robert, here's the thing I learned about him. I've been in hundreds of meetings with him, and he's never talks about what he knows. Every single question of his is, he wants to know what you know.
Yeah.
What'd you learn in that? I always know, like, hey, Robert, I read this book. Tell me about that. What did you learn in that? Always. And so he's trying to shape his own position, because he's not fixed on his position. He's very decisive, but he wants to change it all the time. He wants to change his position. Most people don't. And so most people are afraid to say they don't know. That's all he ever says, and so because of that, he's always changing his position. And so that's what I do. I want to know what you know, because then I'll know more, and most people, they want to tell you what they know. And so, it's just that simple.
Wow. That's humility. That's humility, man. That is wow. What an incredible hour that you just spent with me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful. I mean that. Like, it's not every day I meet a guy like you. So
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I do too, man. I really do. So thank you. And the best place to follow you on social media, where is that?
KenMcElroy.com. I've got Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those kinds of things. Ken McElroy Official generally on most of those. And so, we're on all those different platforms.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much. Please don't hang up on me yet. I'm going to end the live stream. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched and shared this out. Incredible. So my wife just said, thank you so much. Incredible value beyond real estate. And that's important, because it was way beyond real estate.
Never about real estate.
It's awesome, man. Thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.